Hi, I'm Royal Jones, President and CEO of Mesilla Valley Transportation. This January 9th will be our 40th anniversary. Gosh, who would have thought? Time just flies right by.
When Royal finished high school, he decided to go to college and he enrolled in an economics class at UTEP. And from what I remember him telling me, he really enjoyed that class, but he didn't have the money. He couldn't afford the books or the materials that were needed at the time. So after he was enrolled for a few weeks, he wasn't able to keep up just because he didn't have those materials. So he decided to stop going to school. He had worked at his father's ready mix plant and lumber yard.
So if you go farther back than the 40 years, I worked for my dad. Then I wouldn't make enough money, so I started driving a truck. Since I was only 18, I couldn't get a good enough job because you had to be 21. So I thought, hey, I'll just get my own truck.
He learned how to drive equipment at a very young age. He knew a little bit about running a business just from watching what his father had modeled to him.
That took about a year because I couldn't get credit. Couldn't get the money to buy a truck or trailer, and I finally did when I was 19. And I started hauling grain, hauled for various people, hauled some cattle.
His parents weren't very happy about it. They were, it's kind of looked at as a bit of a disappointment to the family. I don't think that they thought that he would do well or succeed. But there's something about him. He's always had a drive to succeed and do well, and he always does it. It's amazing.
Bumper, my son, was born during all this, and because I was a truck driver, I was gone all the time, so he pretty much went with me from him being in diapers up until he had to go to first grade. Once he had to go to first grade, he couldn't go with me anymore because he needed to be in school, so I kind of missed out on most of that. But we had a good time, and he learned a lot about trucks, and we met a lot of people that we still know and still hang out with, and some of you probably still work at MVT or have for a long time. But as I was traveling a lot, I found regular runs. I went from grain and cattle to refrigerated, and I had a regular run from Texas to California that I got from some friends, Jesse and Henry Hollins, who drove for me for 34 years after we started MVT. But they had me on this chicken run one way and produce the other. All of a sudden I'm hauling this produce one way and grain the other, and I'm driving in the daytime. Of course I'm running 20 hours a day, but it was just simple, legal, and I thought, I could do more than this. I could do more than, it doesn't take a special me to miss the scales and not drive too crazy and not hurt anybody when I'm overloaded. So I started thinking about having more than one truck. And then as I went along, I'd go through a little town on a Friday night and see people at the baseball park or see people at a racetrack or see people doing different things. And it hit me that I don't get to do that stuff.
This story was told to me since I was a small girl. So I was born in '84, so started a little bit before me, but the story that I know is my dad was driving down the road one day in his truck and he saw, a baseball park, and he was like, wow, you know what? I never get to do that. I never get to go spend time with my son or go to his games. So when he knew that Jackie was going to be born, something needed to change.
Meanwhile, at that time, I was married to Jackie and Holly's mother, and she was pregnant with what was going to be Jackie. And it started hitting me that, gosh, I don't get to see my son's life now that he's in school and sports and this kind of thing, because I'm always driving. So it made me want to not drive anymore, but I still wanted to be involved in trucking.
One of his best friends at the time was Jimmy Ray, who had a truck, and my dad had a truck. And I think they were in similar situations because Jimmy also had young kids, and they were like, what can we do so that we could be home with our kids and our families?
They were both hauling for Jimmy's parents, and at the time they were mostly doing produce runs. And in the early 80s, Royal and Jimmy decided to get together, and Royal talked to him and just said,
with your mechanical ability and my self-proclaimed ability to run the business, we should get together and run those trucks.
They decided to partner up and run their trucks together. So whenever they first started, they were running together, but they were running under separate names. Royal's trucks were called Royal Jones Trucking, and Jimmy's trucks were called Sunray Trucking.
So they decided to partner up with their two trucks. They found some drivers, and they became the operations people.
So we did that in late '81. I quit driving, put Punch and Jesse Hollins on my truck, then I think he had a couple of trucks, and I went on the back porch of the trailer house that he lived in and started my management of the trucking company. We didn't have any freight, we didn't have loads. My truck had loads, but I had to find loads every day for his trucks, had to get them to learn how to call in. They'd never had to call in before. They just kind of were all wildcatters.
They weren't just the operations people, they were the repair team, the invoicing team, you name it, Jimmy and Royal took care of it.
In about late 81, Royal and Jimmy decided, it would be a lot easier if we just started to run under one name.
I'm Royal Jones Trucking, your Sunray Trucking. So I'm registering my truck, you're registering your trucks, you're doing fuel tax, road tax, I'm doing billing for you, I'm doing billing for me. It's kind of silly that we're duplicating effort.
So he partnered with his friend Jimmy Ray, and they combined their 2 trucks and decided, let's make something big and let's call it Mesilla Valley Transportation.
We live in the Mesilla Valley. That sounds kind of big. We can grow into that name. We registered everything under one name, and that way I could bill. At that time, I did the billing, the payroll, driver hiring, driver test driving. Road tax, fuel tax, if it was done, I did it. All the departments we have right now used to be me. Driver would come in, he'd hand me his bill of ladings, I'd handwrite the ticket, bill the customer right then. Hawkins Produce, 206 South Florence, El Paso, Texas, 79901, $1,000, Oxnard to El Paso. I had it all in my head. And then I would pay the driver right then. I kept a little notebook of what advances he got every day and how we did it. And then if they had a truck problem, they went outside where Jimmy Ray and Alan Derringer were out there to fix anything they had wrong, and we could do it really fast. We didn't miss many loads, and there was never a truck parked on the yard. We just worked constantly. But anyway, so becoming MVT made it much easier, and then we started adding trucks and adding trucks and adding trucks, and we were in the produce business.
It was a big name, but it sounded like something that they could grow into. They're from the Mesilla Valley, and they wanted to represent their community and show that their community could do well. And so that was the name that they went with.
We called it Mesilla Valley Transportation in early '82. And then Jackie happened to be born January 9th of '82. So we took that day as not only her birthday, but MVT's birthday. So January 9th is MVT's 40th birthday.